So once again, we have another between session. This time with Shelley, who, unbeknownst to everyone else and the audience, had an incident occur after returning back to Alice's following their quick departure from the Blue Pyramid Club. So, Shelley, why don't you tell us what happened?
Well, Shelley sees Alice back to her flat and makes sure that Habiba and Kathiri are safe. When she gets there, they're asleep. So, somewhat relieved, she goes outside looking for a cab, and luckily there is a cab parked right outside. So she gets into the cab. She immediately starts studying the guest book that she snatched from the Blue Pyramid Club, looking for the names of Habiba's husband or anyone else who shows up at the club consistently when he does, any other familiar names. As she flips through the pages, she does see Gavigan's signature. As she starts to process that, the cab stops and she thinks, oh, I'm here at the hotel. But in fact, she's still on the street. She looks up. She's about to say something to the driver when the doors on either side open up and two men start to get in. Panic and adrenaline just fire through her. She points her legs at the closest door, and as the man tries to open it, she kicks it as hard as she can, hoping the momentum from his pulling the door open combined with that force will throw him off balance so she can run into the street. But as she pushes, he manages to hold on to the door and starts to get in. She tries again, but it doesn't work. The man forces his way inside, and another man slips in on the left. She starts to scream, hoping some passerby might hear. She screams, rape, rape! And she does see someone about half a block up. As she screams, the person looks her direction, and she feels a glimmer of hope, but the front passenger door also opens and someone else gets in. As that person gets in, the man on the left starts to pull a sack over her head. Now she's really panicking. Alice Hall! Tell Alice Hall! She tries to scream, figuring that the police will find Alice Hall the easiest. And since this cab was waiting in front of her apartment, she worries that they might be in danger too. But the bag is quickly shoved over her head, and she has little hope that anyone heard the exact words she was screaming. Don't do anything stupid, young lady. I would hate to deliver a corpse. Someone says in accented English. Someone British, someone from here. The car begins to pull away. At this point, she just nods and swallows. She's very still and quiet. She's thinking about what to do. She tries to count seconds, detect left and right turns, try to figure out where it is that they're headed. The one on the right turns to her, says, don't make trouble, little one. And she doesn't resist. From what he says, she assumes she's about to be tied up. And that is the case. She hopes to put a little bit of wiggle room in these bonds. So as they start to tie her hands, she tries to distract them with a little bit of talk. You don't want to be doing this. I've got rich friends, powerful friends. Just ask the driver where we were headed. Nobody's don't stay at the Ritz. The man in the front just chuckles. He has an odd, weak laugh. Oh yes, we know all about your rich, powerful friend. Maybe you think you do. I guarantee you don't know the half of it. She doesn't know how successful she's being, trying to distract them while the man's tying her wrists, but they feel depressingly tight. She's counting the lefts and rights. She's fairly certain that as the car comes to a stop, they're at the Penhew Foundation. "You may be right, my dear," the front passenger says, and he opens the door, and he hears the man getting out. She figures it's about 7:30 p.m., and the area around this foundation is mostly commercial and financial buildings. Still, there's a chance someone might be around, but she doesn't hear anyone. The only thing she hears is an iron gate being unlocked and swinging open. She doesn't remember there being an iron gate at the Penhew Foundation, so she's not exactly sure what this means. The car pulls forward through the gate, and the sound of it closing behind her makes her stomach drop. She doesn't hear anyone nearby, but it's really hard to hear things through the sack over the head. She starts to pretend to cry, and it isn't very hard to fake. The car still goes forward, stops after about 20 yards. The man who got out, the one with the proper accent, says, "Get her in the boot while I make the call. I'll return shortly." The man to my right, who is the bigger of the two men, opens his door. "Please take off the hood," she whispers. "I can't breathe. I have asthma. I'm going to die." But this ruse fails to elicit any sympathy, and despite her protestations, she's yanked out of the car. "I said, let's go, little one." She hears the trunk opening. Despite some weak struggles, she's not able to resist. The big man hauls her to her feet. He's not being particularly gentle. She can tell that they're outside. She looks down, and through the space in the sack below her chin, she can see nice cobblestones. That's all. And her fancy shoes that she wore to the Pyramid Club. Her fancy shoes with their tiny pointed heels. As she looks at them, she gets an idea. She stops struggling. She allows herself to be guided to the trunk of the car. She makes no effort to stop them. "Watch your head, missy." She goes meekly into the trunk and tries to crawl in at an angle so that a bit of her skirt gets caught in the boot latch. It's pretty tricky to do without being able to see anything, but she gets lucky. Finally, just a bit of luck. A bit of the skirt does catch in the latch of the boot of this vehicle, and she hopes that that will make it easier to open, and the man doesn't seem to notice. As soon as the trunk shuts, she slides off her shoe. And she slides it up, grabs it in one hand, and starts to use the tiny little heel to pry open some space in the ropes around her wrists. She doesn't know how long she has, but she hears the men talking outside the car. "We've got a couple of hours ahead. I'd take that leak now if I was you." 2 hours, at least. That'll give her some time. "Go idea, is that crazy fucker coming along too?" "Dunno, but I guess he will. He'll be wanting to present it to the boss to show off, I expect." "Well, I don't like him. Gives me the creeps." "Who gives fuck off for what you think? What gives you the creeps? You do as you're told. Well, you know what happens." A little chill goes down Shelley's spine, wondering who this creepy person is that she's being taken to meet, and having experienced some extremely creepy people in the recent past, that isn't something that she's looking forward to. She hears the sound of shoes on cobblestones headed away. She tries to snag the hood over her head with the shoe heel, but doesn't manage to get it right away. She decides to focus on the rope. The men return about 5 minutes later. The gate's opened again and the car goes through. The gate clicks shut. The man gets in back and the car starts driving in earnest. She tries to keep her ears open for conversation, but it's difficult to hear things in the trunk of this car. She can hear the sounds of the city for a while, but eventually it gets much quieter and she can tell she's on country roads. She has tiny hands, but they're strong from all the work that she's done with them. She works and works at trying to wedge this heel, stretch out the ropes, make some space for her hands to slip out. But they are darn tight. Still, she does her best to stay calm. An hour goes by. Another 15 minutes. Shelley doesn't panic, but she just can't get these ropes off. The road is getting bumpier and bumpier, and the sounds are getting more and more rustic and rural. Knowing that she only has about 2 hours total, she decides to switch her attack. Instead, she goes for the hood, and it works. Finally, she breathes fresh air, or at least fresher air. Now, it's time to go for the trunk latch. She does her best to, with her hands tied behind her back, sort of wiggle the cloth back and forth, and finally she managed to pop that latch on the trunk, and she can feel the hood pop open. She grabs it with her hand and keeps it from flying open. And she knows it's dark outside, and she hopes that as she exits the car, they might not notice for a while. As the car goes around a bit of a turn and slows down, she takes that chance. She grabs her shoe, slides it back on. She lets the trunk open, and she rolls out onto the road, popping it shut behind her. She hits the ground hard, taking in bruises and scrapes, but none of that matters. She's free. The wind gets knocked out of her, but she rolls to the ditch and lays there looking up at the stars. She can tell she's in a fairly open area. It looks and smells marshy. There are trees and clumps, but not many, and she can't see any signs of habitation. She waits for the headlights of the car to fade, and when they do, she stands and follows the road the way they had come, watching for crossroads or headlights. She knows this might be a very long walk, but the night is now her friend. If the car returns, she'll see its headlights and hear its sounds long before they can see her. She starts walking. Far too soon, at the edge of hearing, she hears the car screech to a halt. She dashes off the road into the marsh toward any cover. She doesn't stop. She hears the car and sees the headlights coming back down the road. She's wading through the muck of the marsh. It's difficult going, and eventually, as the car starts to get dangerously close, she just lies down in the muck, covering herself. She hopes that they have no idea when she escaped. The mucky mud covers her body and blocks some of the glare from her shiny dress, and they pass right by. Again, when their lights fade, she stands up and starts walking again. Before this, she'd been hoping to run into another car, but now she knows it's going to be too dangerous to stop any vehicle at all. She doesn't know if it'll be them or not. She walks for about 10 minutes, and then she sees the headlights again, coming back. She lies flat again, not moving, still covered in mud. Again, they pass right by her. She gets up, keeps walking. The mud is cold and clammy and starts to dry a bit, and after 15 minutes she spots a cottage up ahead, just off the road. She heads toward it. At first she wants to run to the house, ask for help, but if they're that close to wherever they're going, she just doesn't know if these people can be trusted. As she gets close, she sees there's a truck on the property with a flatbed and wooden slats, probably for hauling vegetables. Rather than rely on the kindness of strangers, she decides it might be better to rely on her own ingenuity. She hotwires the truck, gets it going with no problem. After slicing the ropes off on a yard tool that she finds without a line in the yard. truck is really easy to start. It's a basic machine. She pulls away, and as she does, a light goes on in the cottage. She just keeps driving. There's nothing else she can do. She hopes to stop when she sees any sort of civilization, maybe find some police. Alternatively, if she sees a crossroads, maybe turn down and maybe she'll drive all the way back to London, but again, disappointingly quickly, she sees headlights in her rear view, gaining. She puts the pedal to the metal, knowing that she's at a disadvantage, but all she can do is try to lose them.
All right, so we are about to have a car chase here. And as you might be able to see, this is Shelley in her pickup truck, and this is the cab that is trying to catch her. This mostly follows the rules from the core game, but I have modified them a little bit, as you'll see if you know those rules. All right, so at the beginning of the round, you are being chased. You always will go first. So you have a decision to make if you want to try to change your speed.
Yes, she's gonna try.
Okay, you want to increase your speed to 2 or try. Okay, so because your truck is very slow acceleration, you have to try a drive auto check. All right, you have failed. So next round, you will be able to automatically increase it to 2.
Got it.
So basically what happens is now you get to move 1 space. So you can go ahead and move yourself up to the next. And I will show you. So now you can see the next 2 because there isn't an obstacle in the way. So you can see that the next thing is that there's a bend in the road up ahead if you stay on the main path, or you can try to go around, and you can see that there's sort of an obstacle blocking what might be further down that alternate route. So that is your turn. They are going to increase their speed by 1, and they don't have to roll to do that because their car is a better car. So they are closing the distance a little bit, although you really can't see them now. So that is 1 round that they cannot see you. They have lost sight of you. So let's go to the next round. You may increase your speed automatically now if you want to by 1.
Yes.
So you can go ahead and do that, and then decide what you want to do.
Okay, I don't know how to make the number in the
All right, so if you select the token and then click the little, it looks like a glass or a cup. If you click that, then you'll get all your little token icons. If you hover over the blue and type a 2, it puts a number in the, there you go, just like that. So now you have to move 2.
Okay, they can't see me, and I can move 2 spaces. But if I took this turn coming up, despite it being a turn, that's not an obstacle. They would still see me.
That's correct. Unless something gets in between you.
I think that she is.
And the bend, that the drive with a plus means you make a drive with a bonus die. It's not a particularly hard turn, but it's still challenging. I mean, it's assumed that there are turns, all through this driving, but anything like this is hard enough that it could result in, trouble.
And that bend occurs if she goes straight.
That's right.
Okay. I think she's going to try to take the turn.
Okay, go ahead.
So she ends up here, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And
So you're fine. You don't have to make any checks. That's a nice, easy...
and unless she tries to raise her speed.
No, you already did that. You raised your speed
okay.
at the beginning.
Okay.
So now they're going to go... And incidentally, if you're at a speed of 1, you don't have to ever make any checks. You're assumed to be totally safe at a speed of 1.
Got it.
So these guys now have a choice. They've got a bend coming up. They could drop to a speed of 1 and be totally safe. They could stay at a 2 and take the bend, or they could increase their speed to 3. They're going to increase their speed to 3 because their safe speed is actually a 3. So either way, they're not in great danger if they fail. It will be unfortunate, but not the worst. So they go 1, and as soon as they pass that bend, they have to make their drive check. So I am going to have the driver make his drive check. And he got it with a bonus die. He got an extreme success. So he takes the corner with the bend with ease. So that's 1, 2, and then his third move is there. And now they can see you. They have got past the obstacle.
Okay.
So, new round.
All right. Can she try to increase her speed again?
Yes, you can. You can try to increase your speed every turn. It's just that you automatically succeeded the second time because of your,
Got it.
But you can keep pushing it.
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
This darn truck.
Yeah, it's hard to get a truck to go fast.
Yeah.
You can build up the
I picture
speed, but it takes time to build it up. All right, so you go 2 spaces, so you go 1 ahead, and then I'll show you what you see. So you move 1 and go through the obstacle, and then the second move is going to be to take a bend.
Oh, she makes it this time.
Nice. Okay, so you move right past it, right through. Okay. And they are going to stay at 3. And you can see you're going to have to come back. Why is that doing that? There we go. You will have to come back down. They are going to go 1 and 2 and try this bend here. Let's see if he can manage it. Nope, he failed. So what happens is I'm going to roll a 3-sided die, which is really a 6, but it's halved. Oh, so he loses 3 speed. So they kind of wipe out a little bit. And their car takes 1 damage because I rolled the maximum. I rolled 3. So they tried to take that bend. They kind of got a little greedy, like he was going to cut you off and catch you. But they kind of spin out on the bend, take a little damage, and they now have a speed of 0.
Cool.
So,
okay.
New round.
Shelley hears that squeal of their spin out. You can kind of see them now. And she is going to try to take advantage of this, and she's going to try to speed up. Well, she doesn't have to try. She automatically succeeds this round, right?
Yes. So you want to increase it to 3? All right. You can actually, before you make that decision, I should let you see. You can see at the beginning, you can see 2 ahead. That is a sharp left coming up, a sharp turn. You're going to have to make a standard drive check, no bonus die. And if
well,
you,
then she probably would not speed up.
Yeah, you might want to stay at 2. That's still within your safe speed.
Right. All right. So I'll take that back down to 2.
You can even, I don't know that you want to. You could drop it to 1 if you wanted to. You don't have to.
No, she's just
All right.
gonna.
All right, go ahead. One, 2, and then you have to make that.
Right. Actually,
Nice. You are pulling it off like a champ. But you can see there are more. This is a very, very tight area around where you have gone. Yes, lots of switchbacks. You're in a hilly area. So for them, all they can do is increase their speed by 1 and go 1.
All right. Well, she is not going to increase her speed seeing this coming up.
You can
a fumble.
I was going to say you could also drop it to 1 if you want to make sure that you take that turn.
Oh, it's an automatic?
Yes.
Oh,
if you're
that's right.
at a speed of 1, you do not have to make any checks.
Okay. Well, shoot. I wish I hadn't rolled already.
So I'll let you do it again if you'd rather.
Yeah, I'll drop it to 1.
Because you can. So here's the other thing: you can push a drive check. You can push your check, but if you fail a second time, you're gonna crash. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's as if you were above safe speed. So.
Okay. So she's just taking the 1.
Okay. They are also just going to go the 1. They're staying safe at the moment after wiping out before. They just want to keep you in view.
Okay,
so new round.
Can she still only see the 1 ahead from where she is?
Oh, so you're actually here.
Over
and
here.
They are there. You can see 2 ahead. Let's see. So you can see that it's just a visual obstacle. It is not a difficult drive there.
Okay, so we are going to try to increase again. See if we get lucky.
Okay.
Nope.
You did not.
So just take the 1.
Mm-hmm. Well, the good news there is you don't have to make the check, at least.
Right.
They are also just going to keep it safe for the moment. And we are back to you again. You can see that there's a passenger. I'm not doing anything with him because he's too frantic to really be of help to this guy. You can see him kind of waving his arms and yelling at the guy, which is actually not helping him.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I find that to be helpful when I'm driving.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, can I see...
No, you can't see past the obstacles, so you are...
Oh, that's right.
You're flying blind a little bit.
All right, well, she's going to take the 2.
Okay. Let's see what happens. 1 and 2. You're right.
Shelley, the adrenaline junkie.
Yeah. These guys are actually going to increase speed by 1. and risk that bend. So let's see, he gets a drive auto with 1 bonus die. He made it.
He makes it.
So he is gaining. So they are once again on your tail.
All right, let's try to increase it.
Oh, up to 3. Don't forget to check off your drive auto skill too.
Some fancy clutch work.
All right, so what that means is you have hit the end of my map. So I am going to increase theirs to 3 as well, and 1, 2, 3. There'll be 1 behind you. I'm gonna reset these. Get us a new. Okay, it kept the same one. That's fine. And then I'm gonna get these. I'm gonna reset the. I'm gonna put you back down at the beginning. And then we'll see what you run into. Let's reset the fog. I'm going to regenerate these. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. I want to get some new obstacles.
Do you have a randomizer going on here?
I do. I can. They're multi-sided, and I can randomize the sides. And those, and then I'm going to make ones that are dedicated to a country road. Right now I've got it set for a town, which is far more, there's traffic and stuff like that, so I'm killing all the traffic because there really shouldn't be any traffic. That will be much better in the end. Okay. So unfortunately there is a bend here. Let's reveal. So for your third move, you have to take that bend. So go ahead and attempt your drive check with a +1. So you have a choice. You can push it and risk a crash. Well, you know what? You might as well push it because you're already over the safe speed.
Crash.
You're already over safe speed, so you might as well push it and pray.
No.
Okay.
Alright, she's gonna crash.
So you crash. The car is reduced to 0. You were at 3, so the car takes 3, and you need to make a luck check. Oh no.
Oh no.
8. You take 8 hit points of damage in the
She
crash.
may be unconscious. She doesn't have a lot.
You have 10. So you have what is called a I think it's called a major wound, yes. Let me check on that. I can't remember, honestly, if there's an immediate effect of taking a major wound. Major wound. Tick off the major wound. You have to make a constitution roll to avoid falling unconscious. Okay.
So she's unconscious.
You are unconscious. Okay.
Try to question me now.
Exactly. Okay. Why don't we take a brief intermission?
Okie dokie.
Obviously some time passes. You wake up and the first thing you feel is that your body aches terribly. And you remember the crash. And you see that you are in a dimly lit room. And you are hanging from a chain that's riveted into the wall, into a stone wall. It's cold and damp. You are fairly certain you must be underground. Your vision is a little swimmy. Your head's throbbing.
Shelley looks around the room, wondering if she's really awake or if this is just a nightmare she's having, born out of the fear she had of where she might wake up.
It probably is a nightmare because across the way you can see there is a skeleton hanging from the wall, and when you look at it, its head moves and looks back at you.
Despite the bruising, Shelley startles and slams back against the wall behind her.
And
she starts to pant a little. This is just a dream. This is not real. I was in an accident. I'm unconscious.
the gentleman that you remember comes into your field of view, and he kind of looks at you curiously, and he says, "Ah, I see you've come too. You really should have taken my advice."
Obviously, I could have gotten here so much sooner. Can't imagine of all the entertainment I missed out on.
He said, "More to the point, you could have gotten here in one piece. You almost got me into serious trouble."
She just shrugs.
He reaches out and touches your head, and it really hurts when he touches it. "Don't move. These bandages will have to be changed." And you can feel him loosening bandages around your head that you didn't quite realize you had, and starts unwinding them. And as he pulls them away, they kind of stick to your head with the dried blood, and it's quite painful. And he pulls them off.
She winces at the pain and is, the thought, what do I look like? What's the damage really like? Passes through her mind fleetingly, but none of it compares with this sense of relief she feels if he's changing my wounds, then he doesn't want me dead. At least not yet.
And he turns and he goes over and puts the bandages on this device that is some torture device. And there's a bowl of water on there, and he dips some other cloths in there and comes back and starts dabbing your head, holding it with the other hand, saying, "Stop moving."
She tries to not move. Why am I here?
That's not for me to say. Mr. Gavigan will be wanting to have words with you.
She nods to herself. I thought as much.
You hear chains move from across the other side of the chamber.
What's making the sound?
When he pulls away to go back to the table, you can see it's the skeleton. It's kind of moving in its chains a little bit.
Are you trying to scare me with some tricks?
He turns back. I assure you. He looks over and he says, "Oh, him. No, it's not a trick." And he brings some bandages back over.
Then how is it done?
How is what done?
How is it moving?
Well, it's not really quite dead, I suppose.
Of course it's dead.
You'd have to ask Mr. Gaffigan. That, he says and points, that is the power of the Black Pharaoh, you see.
She looks up, raises an eyebrow.
Make a sanity check to see if you are believing or disbelieving of this. I think you want... Oh, yeah, you don't buy it for a second.
Yeah, she, with her quirked up eyebrow, just gives him a very skeptical look. Doesn't say it.
He doesn't seem to care one way or the other. He commences bandaging you up again. He says, "There. Now, I must go and inform Mr. Gavigan that you have awakened. Do try not to doze off." And he goes over to the bowl and washes his hands and dries them on another towel and takes one last look at you, kind of looking you up and down with a little smirk, and then he heads out of the chamber.
When he leaves, Shelley takes a moment to assess as much of herself as she can. The room, the exits, where the light's coming from.
Yep. The light seems to be coming from a small grate that is very high above. It's probably 50 feet from the floor. And it's kind of a vaulted ceiling, and it narrows, and there's just a little bit of light and air that comes through from up there. The door, you can't actually see the door in the darkness, but he came back out this way, so the door must be on the wall opposite from where like this thing is. So the wall to your left. If you are kind of properly over here.
She looks at herself, her legs. She's standing, so I'm assuming they're not broken.
No, her legs are not broken. Your whole body aches. I mean, your neck is very sore. You can look over and see that your left arm took a pretty bad gash. You don't think it's broken, but it hurt. Like if you move in the chain at all, it hurts. You feel sharp pain.
She tests the manacles just a bit, assuming that this time they were probably pretty careful.
They're very, yeah, they're extremely tight. You are going to have an extremely difficult time working your way out of that, and it would be very damaging to boot.
Hey, she says, over to the skeleton, seeing if it respawns. Still trying to figure out how it's being done.
It does. Its head does kind of perk up when you say that, and it looks in your direction. Make a spot hidden check for me. Okay. It's just staring at you, or you think it is.
Who are you supposed to be?
Its mouth opens, and there's a little bit of a with its teeth, but no sound really comes out.
What sort of clothing is it wearing?
It's actually not quite what's in that picture. It's actually wearing what looks to be a faded tuxedo. It even has shoes. And a bow tie.
But it's skeletal, no flesh left on it.
Yeah, you don't see any flesh at all.
Are they going to kill me?
Its head just turns slightly to the side. It's quite impressive, whatever mechanism is making this do what it's doing. Somebody's clearly operating it, right? Because it's responding, its head is moving. When you talk to it, its head kind of moves, and it moves a little bit in its chain, so it's not like going through a series of mechanical motions. It seems to be responding.
I wonder who they want me to think you are. Roger Carlyle? Arthur Penhew?
You hear the door grate open. You can hear that it's a heavy door with rusted hinges. And you hear the sound of fine shoes on stone. And in strides Mr. Gavigan. He walks over and looks you up and down. And in his hand you recognize your passport from your purse.
Right.
He says, Very impressive, Miss Franken. I didn't expect you to show so much spunk. I rather expected you to come quietly. He goes over to the table and sets the passport down.
Yes, well, people usually don't expect much. But I've been blessed with certain capacities, I suppose. She says, throwing out that word she remembers from the telegram.
Yes. You do surprise me. I don't often find a woman worthy of a challenge. But when I do, it's quite pleasant.
Well, I can't say I'm pleased to be here or to have been the source of your entertainment, but I'll take the compliment.
I'm afraid you're not much entertainment. You're not here for pleasure, and I don't have you here for pleasure. I have you here for business. There is some business to attend to. He says, it is Miss Franken, I assume.
Ms.
Ms. Oh, how delightfully unclear. You're not engaged to our mutual friend, are you?
She just gives a little smile and shakes her head. Not yet.
Oh, not yet. You have designs on Mr. Pepin, do you? Well, of course you do. He's a very wealthy man. Well, then you must know a lot about him. That's quite fortunate.
It's really not much to know.
Oh, well then this should be a brief conversation then. He said, I told Arthur to take his pick of whoever was most readily available. I see he made a wise choice then.
Arthur, yes, she says, making a mental note. Does he look the right age, Arthur?
For what?
If he were Arthur Penhew.
No. Not at all. Arthur
Too young?
Penhew is older. Yeah. He's much too young to be Arthur Penhew. Unless he's disguised.
Right. Well, she probably wouldn't assume that. That's a pretty tough disguise to pull off, but...
Yeah. He looks at your passport. He says, I see you've been to Paris. In England. You don't get out of America much.
No, my work kept me in America.
Really? So, what brings you here, to my little island?
She thinks for a moment and she says, answers.
Answers to what questions?
I'm a scientist, Mr. Gavigan. And I've seen things that...
You see him kind of smirk when you say that, and raise an eyebrow, clearly finding that, implying that you are probably using that word very liberally.
Have you heard of Tesla?
Tesla. I'm afraid I've not heard of him.
Shame. He's quite famous where I come from.
Oh. Is he...
He had a lot of interesting theories. Energy transferal. Wireless energy transferal. Things that made other people think he was crazy, but I could see that so many of his ideas had potential.
He
You go ahead.
He's dropping his cheeks just a little as you say that, as in in an amused expression. He says, "Such lofty words."
Well, one can't control what mind one is born with. This small female body happens to have quite a big brain in it. And she just gives a little smile.
Well, then I shall enjoy picking that brain, and I'm very sorry, although it's hardly my fault, that your brain may have been slightly damaged in your unwise attempts to escape.
She looks around the room. Considering this was the alternative, I don't think it was unwise.
Perhaps.
But still, while I'm here, I might as well learn what I can. Satisfy what curiosity I can before you do whatever it is you want with me.
He says, "Well, your fate is partly in your hands. It depends on how this interview goes. If I'm satisfied, you will meet with a meaningful and rather painless end. If it is not satisfactory, well..."
That's not very motivating.
Isn't it? Well, perhaps I can motivate you. He says, "Charles over here has been hanging from this wall for, what is it now? Almost 6 years, isn't it, Charles?" And you can see the skeleton kind of looks him in the eye. And he says it was quite a lot of work and effort to get him in this state.
What's the point?
The point is, that could be you hanging there.
No, I mean, what's the point of doing it?
Oh, I like to look at him. It reminds me of the many years I had to wait for what was, well, should have been mine from the very start. Isn't that right? And he kind of pointedly looks at the skeleton again.
You call him Charles? Who is that supposed to be?
Who? Oh, I suppose it's not important. Someone who should have had my interests in mind and chose to be very, very selfish. And a bore on top.
Boring is something that I can understand your distaste for. So much of this world is boring. As
Quite so.
distasteful as I find this place, the path that led here has been anything but.
Well, then you'll understand when I say that you're here to help me understand who Mr. Pepin is and what his interest is in my affairs. And I promise you, as a fellow seeker of meaning, as I can see that you are, I shall give you an end that is very meaningful indeed. You'll become a part of something much greater than yourself. Your pathetic life of darkness and uncertainty will culminate in something truly wonderful.
Are you sure that's what Makunga had in mind?
Makunga, yes. I'm afraid Makunga's a bit crude for my tastes. a necessary ally, if you will.
Still, he seemed to see something in me.
Oh, was it you he spoke of? I wasn't sure. He was rather unspecific.
She shrugs. I don't know what he told you, but
I
he
think
won't leave me alone.
he wags his finger. I think you do know exactly what he told me, Miss Franken. Ms. Franken. Your little ruse at the Foundation was very convincing.
Well, I would take a bow, but she just kind
That would be rather difficult. Yes, please don't strain yourself.
Is this really necessary? I'm 5 feet tall, you know.
He
I
says,
certainly can't imagine that you feel threatened by me.
I must admit it gives me some degree of pleasure to see you standing there, helpless. Call it vanity, if you will. But I do derive some pleasure from it. And you've proven now that you're quite resourceful. And squirrely, I might say. Who knows what cleverness you might get up to if you get those chains off your wrists. I think I like you there. He says, this conversation has been very pleasant so far, but I do have matters to attend to. I didn't come out to the country for my health. So, I'm afraid we're going to have to speed up this interview, perhaps a little faster than I should normally like. He kind of looks you critically, like around your head and such.
Well, she's inside trembling, but is hoping to find some sort of leverage in their conversation. So she's trying to keep up a bit of bravado.
All right. He says, you mentioned my dear friend, Mr. Makunga. Do tell me about him, what you know. What transpired in England, or in New York?
It all seems so long ago now. We encountered him in the basement of a club. We'd gone there looking for someone, an investigator. And we found him there in the basement of the club along with a lot of other people. And there in that room, he spoke to me. She shakes her head as if she's kind of disturbed at the memory. He seemed to think that there was something, maybe not between us, but some sort of kinship. Maybe it has something to do with this. He never said Black Pharaoh.
Oh, no, he wouldn't have.
But I think he was talking about the same thing.
Yes. Yes. I expect he was speaking of a rather primitive aspect of that same god.
We lost a friend there, but we left that basement. But still,
Yes.
can't seem to get rid of him.
I'm rather surprised he let you out alive. Perhaps he saw something in you. Or perhaps he was incompetent. Either way, you're now in England. And I want to know why. I want to know what you know about myself and about my associates. And I want to know what your intentions are. Well, what they were, what Mr. Pepin's intentions would be now.
We want answers for various reasons. Some of us have lost friends. Some of us are just fascinated.
Fascination is a powerful motivator.
It always has been for me.
Well then,
Even now, here in this place, I should be terrified, but all I have are questions.
So there you see, you have the spirit. It's a shame. You would have made a fine compatriot under different circumstances. I can see you could go far. His eyes kind of narrow.
She looks at him and raises an eyebrow. Who says it has to be like in the past? I'm here, you're here.
Try a fast talk for me. Give me an idea of how well you are.
Is this persuade?
This is actually, fast talk is when I assume you're not being entirely truthful about your intent.
No, she is fascinated. She's just using that as and she's no good at this.
Yeah. You know what? I would have thrown in a bonus die for you, just because you actually are very
fascinated.
You're fascinated, yeah. Just not
fascinated
convinced.
And repulsed.
Yes, exactly. So you managed to hide your repulsion and sound somewhat sincere about your interest. And you can see that he's kind of judging. He's in thought. And he walks over to the skeleton on the wall. And he says, "What do you think, Charles? A rather curious specimen, is she not?" And the skeleton the head kind of turns and looks at you. And he says, "Oh, don't worry, there's still a chance. There's still a chance, Charles. Don't lose hope." And he walks back over to the table. He says, "Very well, let us continue. Tell me, what is Thaddeus Pepin's interest in this whole matter?" Clearly he is the driving force behind your efforts.
He's not really the driving force.
Really? Well, enlighten me then.
One of my companions lost someone who was quite interested in these things. And Thaddeus has developed certain affections for her, I think.
Oh, a rival for you. How inconvenient.
Yes, she says with a kind of wry, tight-lipped smile. Rather my opposite in many, many ways.
So go on. I'm listening.
And I don't know whether her affection for him is real or feigned, but he has deep pockets. And so...
That he does.
My being tossed in with them was rather just a coincidence, just Or I don't seem a coincidence at the time. I saw some things I couldn't explain while at his mansion, and I've thrown in with them ever since, hoping to find answers to it.
He wants you to tell him more. We can kind of fast track a little bit.
Sure.
Are you going to tell him the story of how you came to be with them? Or are you...
She'll definitely include her part because it's pretty innocuous.
Mm-hmm.
The only parts, she'll try to kind of downplay Thaddeus's intelligence.
Yep.
Any friendship between the three of them. Basically give kind of this outline without coloring in, any of the emotion. She figures that a man like him will understand cold manipulators better than actual people who care about each other.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll let you make a persuade check then. Okay. He listens. You're not really sure what he thinks.
She doesn't lie about anything.
Okay. He also wants to know how you got started in this whole business of poking your nose where it shouldn't be.
Her personally, or the group?
More interested in... So it sounds like you're trying to portray Natalia as the driving force, the brains or whatever behind this whole thing, right? Which actually isn't completely off. So yeah, he's still interested in Pep, and you can see he's skeptical about this whole idea that Natalia is the driving force behind it. But he may be coming around to that possibility because he does.
If he doesn't seem convinced, she will drop Jackson Elias's name. What she will absolutely not ever do is mention her daughter.
Okay. Go ahead and make a psychology check for me. Psychology, not persuade. When you mention Jackson Elias, you can see that he's trying not to give anything away, but he clearly recognizes the name. When you say that, you can see a small change in his demeanor. And he also says, you've been rather studiously leaving out Alice Hall.
Oh, Alice. She's an expert on Egyptology. We need her, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll do anything to get to Egypt.
So you're planning a trip to Egypt, are you?
She looks around the room at the sarcophagus in the corner. She says, that seems to be where everything's leading us.
He follows your eye to the sarcophagus, and he just kind of chuckles a little. He says, "Oh, that's not a sarcophagus, my dear. That's what they call an Iron Maiden."
I doubt she knows what that is.
No. He says, "Oh, would you like me to show you?" He walks over and pries open the doors, and you can see spikes inside, and imagine yourself in there in a very cramped space with points sticking at you from all directions.
She swallows hard.
And
That looks unpleasant.
Oh, it is. He closes it, and you can see he rather pointedly forces the latch that, you would shut somebody in, latch them in. It makes a nice little thunk sound as he does so. He says, yes, a few days in there will break anyone. I'd hate to have to leave you in there while I'm gone. I'm afraid I'd come back. There's a chance you would be of no use to me at all. That's the problem with measures that extreme. Sometimes the mind simply can't bear it. Though you look strong, I suspect you probably could handle it.
She says, in my current state, probably not. She cocks her head to one side. And are you sure that's what your Black Pharaoh wants?
What do you mean, my dear?
A useful person, an interesting mind, someone who has proven themselves resourceful, bleeding out pointlessly in some sort of medieval torture device?
Oh, no. No, that would be very disappointing. And a waste of a beautiful face, I must say. So we cleaned you up. And he smiles. He says, no, I think the end of your story will be a much more meaningful one, as I promised. You have been answering freely, and I appreciate that. No foolish attempts to resist my questioning. That bodes well for you. And he looks back over his shoulder. And very poorly for you, Charles. So sorry, I don't think you're going to get your wish this time. He says he's always so disappointed every time I bring someone down here, and he gets his hopes up.
Hopes up for what?
Oh, a final release, of course. Can you imagine hanging there for, 6 years? No flesh, your mind mostly gone, but not quite gone. Remembering how each bit of flesh was scraped away as you watched, feeling every painful moment and wishing for death, but death does not come, watching every organ being removed painstakingly. Your heart, your intestines. It must be quite disturbing.
How can there be pain without any nerves? She says.
She says, oh, well, he had nerves when I began the process.
Oh, yes, but not for quite some time now.
Oh, no, not at all. No, the pain is all in his mind now.
I would like to... I'm finding this difficult to believe, but I am here for answers, so I don't know. Perhaps someday you will actually explain this.
I'd hate to have to explain it directly to you. First-hand knowledge is always the one that makes the greatest impression. And I'm afraid I don't do the process lightly. You see, I haven't done it in 6 years for a reason. It's quite taxing. Not to be done on a trivial basis. Only to those truly deserving of such an unfortunate end.
I see. Well, as you say, I've told you what you need to know, and you can either continue to threaten and intimidate me. You're pretty good at it.
You
can tell me what you want.
He kind of nods a little bit, as in sort of an acknowledgement of the quote kind words.
As you say, you're a busy man. How do I get out of here?
That's a very good question. When you arrived, there were only 2 ways you were going to leave this place. Neither of them what you would traditionally call alive. I'll have to think on it during my trip. It's rather late. I do want to get a little bit of sleep, and you've caused me a bit of late night concern with your little escapade. I'd hoped it to be done an hour ago or more. So, I'm going to go and get some rest. When I return from my journey, we'll continue this discussion.
Very well. Do I have to remain chained up like this?
He walks over and he puts a hand on your cheek and he says, I suppose that depends.
On what?
He said,
She tries to look up at him and be as appealing as possible.
he says, I suppose you could join me in my bedchamber this evening. He says, of course I'd have to have Arthur clean you up a bit.
I'm afraid I wouldn't be very entertaining in my current state. She looks around the room trying to figure out which one would be worse.
He shrugs and says, suit yourself.
Wait. If that's what you want.
He says, I didn't say want, but I wouldn't turn my nose up at it. Let's just put it that way. It's not often I meet a woman with your intelligence. I don't share my bed with common hussies.
And I don't usually share my bed with sadistic torturers. However...
He says I've not tortured you yet.
Well, I'm going by the evidence of my eyes. And I do appreciate the restraint.
He says, I assure you I take no pleasure in torture. Appearances to the contrary. I will say, however, in some rare instances, and he looks over at Charles and he says, I do occasionally take pleasure in inflicting pain. But generally speaking, I'm a man of rational thought. I derive no pleasure in suffering.
I don't want to stay in this room. I would join you in your bed, if that's what it takes to get out of here, but let me tell you this. It would be much nicer for you if I came because I wanted to, and I can see that might be a possibility in the future.
That's going to require a roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll let you persuade on this. Not that you're very good at persuading. Or
No.
charm. You can use charm or persuade. or
All
or
right.
fast talk. It's all fine.
What am I best at?
I think you can't be any worse than what you have been doing. Your charm is at least slightly better.
She's got a good appearance. Okay.
Oh yeah, well
Here we go.
that's the whole that you wouldn't have the offer if you weren't. You would not have been interested.
Oh, nope.
Oh, you could spend 4. You could spend 4 luck if you want. You got a 19.
And what does that get me?
That means you
A
can.
reroll?
That convinces him that you actually are entertaining the idea
Oh,
that you
okay.
could be attracted to
Absolutely.
him.
Yes.
All right, reduce your luck by 4. Yeah, he touches his mustache, and kind of gives it a little twirl on one end while he thinks, and you can see he's got kind of a wry smirk while he's doing it. And he says, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that a woman of your intelligence would be attracted to a man of power and equal intelligence. He says,
I have to say, it doesn't happen often.
No, it does not. The world is full of foolish and blind people going about their daily business, wallowing in ignorance until the day they die in darkness and confusion. Only a few of us attain any sort of enlightenment.
That's all I want.
Well, that is what I can offer. Perhaps, then, there is a future for you.
She tries to hide her shaking knees.
He says, I'll send Arthur to fetch you and get you cleaned up. And join me when you're ready. But don't be too long. As I said, I've a busy day ahead of me. Very important business to attend to. And he strides out.
Gross.
All right, quick break. All right, and we're back from our brief break. All right, so Shelley is left hanging there on the wall to contemplate her situation.
Shelley tries frantically to think of something that she can do to both get out of this room and not fulfill what she has basically agreed to do. But her eyes just keep going to that Iron Maiden, and the devices on the table, and Charles or whatever that is on the wall.
That is still staring at you. You even imagine that there is some sadness in its odd demeanor.
If I have a chance, no, this isn't real. I'm talking to you as if you're real. She shakes her head.
It kind of cocks its head to one side.
If you were real, never mind. What am I doing? Someone's behind that wall.
And now we actually know this is Arthur, so I'm going to change his name. Arthur comes in. You can see he's not terribly pleased. He comes up to you and he says, "Well, aren't you the sly one?"
Yes. Now, please let me down.
Don't think I don't see through your game. Mr. Gavigan is a great man, and it does not please me to see him being played by some strumpet.
You think I'm playing him? She shakes her head.
Well, I have my orders. And he goes over to the table and retrieves a set of keys and comes over and unlocks your shackles.
She
Make a constitution check. Yeah. Okay. You avoid collapsing in a heap.
Yes. Her arms feel, as the blood rushes back into them, are probably all pins and needles.
Mm-hmm.
And her hands are icy cold. And she rubs her arms with her hands, rubs her hands together, tries to get the circulation flowing.
He looks you up and down, and he says, "I've been instructed to prepare you appropriately. I suppose that means to give you a bath?"
I'm quite capable of bathing myself if...
Oh, don't think
the
I was
bath
going
is-
to do it. You're going to bathe yourself.
Well, good. This is a very strange place, and I had no idea what to expect.
I assure you I'm a very proper gentleman.
She looks around the room again and raises an eyebrow.
He seems to have absolutely no idea why you would be... if that there's any irony whatsoever in what he said. So, yeah, he has no idea.
Well, yeah, she'll try to engage him in some conversation as they go up. Try to find out anything she possibly can, but he doesn't.
Yes, he says, he says, "Do you need my assistance, or are you able to walk under your own power?"
I should be fine.
You're a little wobbly, but yeah, you can walk. You're in your bare stock. You're in your stockings. You don't. Your shoes are gone. You're not sure what happened to them.
Do you have my handbag?
Mr. Gavigan has your handbag.
It has some toiletries in it.
You can see he kind of rolls his eyes for a moment, and he says, "While you're bathing, I'll see what I can do."
She nods.
He opens the door and leads you out, and there is, you can see that you're still in this stone underground area. And as you walk through, you can see on either side you pass about maybe 4 or 5 cells with iron bars.
Are any of them occupied?
Make a spot hidden check for me. Ooh. They are not occupied, but you do see right at the edge of one of them, there's what appears to be a wallet. Just like 6 inches through the bars on the floor.
He's ahead of her, right?
Not by much, but yes, he is.
She'll, as he passes, she'll try to pick it up.
Okay, are you going to err on the side of if you can't quite do it surreptitiously, you're just going to leave it? Or are you going to make sure you get it even if it means being seen? Yeah, you know, how sneaky are you being?
She's gonna be more sneaky than not than she'll sneakiness is paramount. She does not want to blow her chances and end up back in those manacles.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to have that then be a... You can just do a dexterity check for me then. Nope. You can push it if you'd like.
But then she definitely gets seen.
If you fail, you will get seen. Yeah, you're taking a chance. You know, you kind of take a quick reach for it, and you're kind of looking at him to make sure he's not looking, and you don't feel it, so you know you misjudged. And he is slowing down.
Dang it. Yeah. I want to know. No, she doesn't.
Okay. So you kind of draw your hand back and stand up just as he turns, and you can see he's annoyed. He says, "Do try to keep up."
I'm trying.
And
she just sort of exaggerate. Well, she probably doesn't have to exaggerate how stiff and...
Oh, no, you don't have to at all. It's taking quite an effort just to keep up with him. And he eventually takes you to some stone steps and leads you up the steps. And once you're upstairs, again, make a spot hidden check for me, just to give of how much in your state of mind you're able to notice. Yeah, it's a little bit of a blur. Your general impression is you are in a very large, fine house, but it's not. It has an unlived-in feel. You do notice a couple of chairs, for example, that have covers on them, and he leads you up another set of steps to a second floor.
Okay.
And clearly he's leading you to what must be like a guest bedroom. And he opens an adjoining door to a bathroom and starts drawing water for the bath. And he says, "Mr. Gavigan's home has all the finest amenities." He says, "Running water. That's how great a man he is." And you can see his eyes kind of widen as he says that.
Running water, blood drains, Iron Maidens. He really does have everything.
His eyes narrow a little bit, like he's not quite sure if you're making fun of him. And he just says, "Well, I won't watch as you undress It would be unseemly. He says, take your bath and be quick about it. He says, I shall go and I shall find some clothes. I suppose the late Mrs. Gavigan has something that will be suitable.
At the words late Mrs. Gavigan, another shudder runs through Shelley,
and he departs the room and closes the door behind him, and you can hear a key inserting into the door's lock, and it's being locked behind him.
Yeah, I'm assuming no windows or exits from this room.
There are windows. They are actually they are closed and kind of bolted shut, but you think you could slide them back with a little force if you needed to.
Right, she's gonna go take a look outside. She wants to get a look at where she is.
Yeah, you are facing the front of the mansion, because you can see in the moonlight a circular drive, and that leads to a, there's a little cobblestone, or not a gravel road that leads to an iron gate, and you can kind of see that there are a lot of trees here. You can imagine that they sort of shield the house from pesky people that might want to look in.
Okay, so how far off the ground are we?
It's pretty high up, I would say. You are a good 15 to 20 feet.
Yeah, that's pretty high. And nothing in sight but this place.
That's correct. Yep. It's also, I mean, it's very dark too. I mean, it's night. You can see moonlight. You can sort of, well, actually, not really. No. You really can't make out any details beyond the trees.
And she doesn't see the car.
Actually, you do. You see the taxi, and you also see another car in the drive as well.
Okay, 2 cars.
Mm-hmm. The other car looks quite fancy indeed.
And she's still, like in terms of game mechanics, she's basically got 2 hit points left, or
that's
not?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. No, she can't afford any daring to.
We should knock you down to 2 there. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you're not really. I mean, that may be why they just let you stay in a room with windows that you could possibly open and jump down from.
Right. Okay. Well, then she's just going to look around this room, start running the bath. Well, obviously a woman in her position, she's going to be looking for anything she can use as a weapon or a tool later.
Okay.
Something like that. But she will start running the bath.
Yep. All right, so run the bath. I'll let you have a luck check to see if you find anything that is potentially usable as a weapon. Okay. You find, let's say, like a little paring knife that was left on a table. Kind of neglected. It's covered in dust. This room doesn't look like it's well maintained. As you're looking around, there's dust everywhere.
Okay, she picks it up. She takes it over to the bath. She gets undressed and does get into the bath, but she takes the knife with her. She wants to make sure it doesn't get accidentally discovered when Arthur comes back.
Okay.
So she'll get herself cleaned up. She'll actually do the whole bath thing. She is hoping he comes back with her handbag, but let's see.
He does, actually. Are you getting in the bath?
She'll, when Arthur comes back, yeah, she'll probably be getting ready to, but she'll
Okay.
reach through the door for her handbag.
Okay, yeah, he actually, all he does is he opens the door, deposits your handbag somewhere in the bedroom, and leaves.
Okay. Well, she looks in the handbag. She wants to see what's there and what's not. Is her mini toolkit still there?
Oh God, no.
Yeah, that's
That
too bad.
that would
Not for her sentimental value. That
Yeah.
was like a
Uh-huh.
wedding gift.
Yeah,
It
they
actually makes her pretty mad,
clearly went through it. Yes, I'm sure it does.
and her journal's probably gone.
Yes, her journal is gone.
Okay. Well, she puts the little knife inside the bag. And then she'll go get cleaned up because she doesn't really know what she's going to do from here, so she's just playing along.
Okay. Get cleaned up. Yeah, so there would be some things in there, of a more personal hygiene nature, women's
Yeah.
stuff.
Some scent and stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly. Here, let's see.
Cosmetics.
Mm-hmm. Let's change the scenery just a bit.
Well, I think she would probably delay as much as she could.
Sure.
Eventually she would have to get out. Has Arthur
Yeah.
put anything in the room for her to wear?
Yes. He also put, well, you're not really quite aware of English fashion, but to your eye, it sure looks quite outdated. And not very racy.
Right.
Pretty proper stuff. But it's clean.
Right. It's not covered in blood and mud.
It's not covered in blood and mud. He didn't exactly do a great job of dusting it off, but
Well, as that is what she has, she will put it on
okay.
and do
It's
what she
not
can to
not
arrange it to look
yeah,
attractive.
not a great fit. The woman was a little larger than you, but not too much.
Right. She'll sit down at a mirror and start, putting on cosmetics, just thinking, what am I going to do? And so she's already looked around the entire bedroom, not just the bathroom, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She will walk over to the bedroom door and listen. I'm assuming that eventually she'll hear move.
Make a listen check. Yeah. Yeah, you're not sure. It's pretty quiet.
She'll take the door handle and open it and peek out just a little bit.
It's locked.
Makes sense. She'll take up
and you hear a voice from right on the other side of the door. Are you quite ready, Miss Franken?
She tries to think of anything else she can do to delay, but she can't think of anything. She looks almost longingly at that window and its 15 to 20 foot fall, and she sighs, though, and she thinks of Thaddeus and Natalia, and that if she died, she wouldn't be able to warn them, that she wouldn't be able to help them. There's Kafiri, and there's Habiba, and there's Alice, and she needs to stay alive. So she finally answers, yes.
Very well. And you can hear the key being inserted into the lock, and he opens the door. And he says, you certainly took your time.
Well, there was quite a lot of... I was a bit sore, let's say that.
Always excuses with you. People. Weaklings.
So, these clothes belong to Mrs. Gavigan?
Yes, his mother.
Oh, his mother.
He's never
thought they were his wives.
He says he's never
His wife?
taken a wife. Don't imagine that you might convince him. He's not interested in women that way.
No? She says, looking very confused.
He says, Mr. Gavin is a great man. He would not stoop to marrying someone. He's far greater than that.
Well,
Like
people
myself.
get married for many reasons. Some of them just convenience.
And what would you bring him that he doesn't already have? And
That's for us to discuss, isn't it?
He's leading you down the hallway. He says, oh, do try. You'll have a deucedly difficult time convincing him that you're worth anything. I see right through you.
One at a time, Arthur.
He frowns and leads you down a long hallway to the other end of the house.
During the long walk, she'll ask him more questions. So how did you come to serve Mr. Gavigan?
Make a charm roll. I'll give you
Nope.
No. Yes, he says, that's none of your business. Make a psychology check for me.
Nope.
All right.
Too much on our mind.
He says it's none of your business.
Nope. Sense being unpleasant and just making conversation.
We'll save your energy. You're going to need it.
She holds back a retort, not wanting to really antagonize him. Where are we? She'll ask him where they are. Like, what part of England are we in?
Make a luck check. He says, we're in Essex, of course.
Well, it might be more obvious to people who didn't make the trip in the boot.
Yes, I'd forgotten. And he says, and as you approach, you can see that at the end of the hall, there is a man standing out front of a door. A rather large, beefy man. just kind of standing to the side of the door, and he kind of looks at Arthur but says nothing. And Arthur says to you, "Wait here." And he gives a soft knock on the door. And then he opens the door and goes in, but doesn't, but kind of half closes it behind him.
Were you in the car? She says to the big man.
He just kind of looks at you. He just has kind of an impassive face. He doesn't say anything. He looks at you but says nothing.
Well, if you were more talkative then.
The door opens quietly, and Arthur, in a big show of being very quiet, comes back out and closes the door behind him. And when he turns to you, you can see there's a kind of a look of triumph on his face. And he says, "Well, I'm afraid you've blown your chance. He's fast asleep. You took your time. Now you won't get your chance to get your nails in him."
Well, not tonight anyway.
Well, he won't be here tomorrow. So this was your chance. Right? Back to your room with you. And he starts going back down the hall.
She lets out a deep breath and kind of just hugs herself a little bit and says a little prayer of thanks.
Come on.
She heads back to her room.
Okay.
And she'll go in the room, and unless something else happens, I think she's just going to try to rest and build up her strength.
Yep. He locks.
She might try to talk Arthur into bringing her something to eat.
When you ask for something to eat, you can see that he's in the best mood you've seen him so far. And he says, "I'm sure I can rustle up something to help sustain you. We don't want you dying prematurely." And he says, "But don't get any ideas, my dear. There's no way you're leaving here alive. Oh no. You're going to be out there." And he kind of puts his head back over his shoulder in the direction of the back of the house. And he says, "I'd say you've got about 2 weeks, so enjoy them." And he steps out and closes the door and locks it again.
Well, she doesn't know quite what to make of the 2 weeks. She sits on the bed, pulls her knees up to her chest, and thinks about her situation. But all she can really think is that if I make it to tomorrow, then there's still a chance. Take it one step at a time. And as long as she's alive, there's still hope. She's made it out of that dungeon. She should be able to make it out of this house somehow.
Yes. I forgot we still have the dungeon sounds. Yes. He comes back with some food for you. It's slightly stale bread, some cheese, and a little bit of beer, actually.
She is genuinely grateful, and as unpleasant as Arthur is, she gives him an actual smile and thanks him sincerely, and starts to eat. What did you mean about 2 weeks?
He says, well, that will be the night of the ritual, and I expect you'll have a prominent place in it.
She eats, thinking, calculating. That's the new moon.
He smiles. So your head isn't as empty as it appears.
She just keeps eating, thinking, maybe it's you that'll have a special place in the ritual. She turns and gives him just like kind of a girlish smile.
You can see that you've spoiled his good mood. He says, I can't think of any reason why it would be me. Although, of course, one day I'll volunteer for it.
Well,
But not until Mr. Gavigan says so. It's his decision, not yours. It will never be your decision.
that's true. It is Mr. Gavigan's decision. Whoever he likes best, I suppose, will be rather safe from it. And he might actually consult those people that he likes best.
You can see he's definitely trying to make a show of not being irritated or gotten to, but you can see his hands are kind of curling up in fists and releasing and fisting and releasing, and you can see his breathing is starting to come a little hard, and he says, "Don't ever say such things again. It's not permitted."
Arthur, we should be friends, don't you think?
Friends? You and I shall never be friends.
That makes me so sad. Are you sure you don't want to be friends, Arthur?
Mr. Gavigan is my friend. That's the only friend I need. And now I wish you a good night.
Good night, Arthur.
And he kind of storms out of the room and closes the door.
Okay.
Make a hard luck check. No. He remembers to lock the door behind him.
All right. I think we're going to have to wrap up for tonight.
Yes, that sounds fine.